Welcome to the live stream. Let me know if you have audio. Today has gone by very, very fast. Getting ready for today. We've had technical difficulties. Welcome. So that's all I'll say about that. Sorry about no countdown timer, but we are super glad to be on live. So tonight we have quite a bit of conversation that I would like to touch on. I want to talk about my choice again for the HyperDeck that was announced last week on Thursday by BlackMagic Design. If you haven't heard yet, go to BlackMagic Design's site or YouTube channel and watch the intro video. There's 4 new HyperDecks, 2 new cameras, and a 4K version of the web presenter, which I've actually listened to some other people that are very excited about that piece of equipment for a number of reasons, the scaling, but that's not my expertise. That's not where my passion's at. So we'll be talking tonight and looking at the front and the back of the HyperDeck that I chose. And you saw it in the still image. Pop that up on the screen again right now. So you can see I crossed out the ones I'm not getting and put a circle around the one I am getting. So I want to talk about that. We're going to look at the front and the back, and I'm planning on doing a video. I don't know when my version is going to get here. I ordered it from the dev store. They've been really good. The last order I got was my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. And so it arrived in great shape. I've bought some other things from other places. So this is not affiliated. This is not sponsored by BlackMagic Design. I'm not sponsored by anything. I do have affiliate links in the notes below at the end of the night for the live stream. So if you come back, you can check out some of the things I'm talking about tonight. You can see the lights over my shoulder. So we are going to be talking about the lights and what kind of lights do you need if you're going to live stream, do photography, do video. So that's not all my lights. I still needed some lights in the room. So I still have one of my 50 RSSs up above my head in the very back. I'm using my Elgato key lights to do a little hair light behind me, as well as my key light, which is right up here. So those are still active. I have my new light right next to me, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So we're going to touch on lights. We're going to touch on the BlackMagic Design announcement and focus in on the HyperDeck that I have coming. The funny thing, and let me just double check here. If everything's right, let me know. I'm just double checking the lip sync here. That looks great. So let me know in the chat you're here, please, and where you're from. I see you, Freddie. Thank you for joining me. Craig, thank you for joining me. If you're watching this after it was live, I have been letting the chat go ahead and stream after the fact. So just be reminded that if you have any input or you'd like to share or comment, then you can do that in just the notes of the video, because the chat won't be continuing after tonight's live. So I'm live every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And my name is Keith, and I'm your host if you don't know that. So it's great to have you guys here, and we're going to talk about those topics tonight. Try not to go an hour and a half. That was crazy the other night. I did a special live stream this week. I'm talking about the 4 HyperDecks and shared at the end of that stream which one I was getting. So I placed that order, and we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. So the other thing is I wanted to talk about some of the videos that I have recently released on my channel. I did the Aputure MC, which is a great little light. We're going to talk about lights tonight. I have one of them up and on, and then I have the other ones behind me, so you can't really see them that well tonight, but I have them back in the corner back there, and then I have one right on the rack right there over this shoulder, so it's right there. And so we're going to talk about those. And then again, I have the B7C right here. So I just released today a video on Aputure's bulb light. It's got some huge advantages. We'll talk a little bit about that later tonight. So that's here on my desk in a lamp, and I'll bring that into frame when we get to talking about lights. So HyperDeck, we're going to talk about things I really like about it, look in the front and back, and then we're going to talk about lights that I have and what kind of lights do you need for live streaming. And then I hope you'll watch my Aputure MC video on the channel that was uploaded, my D.I.Y. do-it-yourself case for the Aputure MC Lights. So if you don't know anything about the Aputure MC Lights, they're just little miniature lights, and we'll talk about one tonight. They come with a softbox. They come with a nice little zip canvas holder. They come with a couple pieces of Velcro with sticky on the back, industrial Velcro. I use those to help build my case. I don't think I would use that on my lights. They have magnets on the back. They're a really cool light, and I needed to have a softbox for each one of them. And when you buy the kits from Aputure, they don't come with all the softboxes. So if you bought 4 lights and a 4 kit, and their 2 choices are 4 kits, a kit of 4 with a charging case, so you can plug in a wall and wirelessly charge those Aputure MC lights. And again, they're just miniature LED lights about the size of a deck of cards, maybe a little bit bigger, smaller than my hand, and I don't have big hands. But they're great lights. They're bicolor, so they'll do RGB and they'll do bicolor. And they have a pretty good range, the MCs, but the B7C, the bulb light, it has even a greater range, and they all can be used in an app called Sidus Link, and we're going to talk about that. So if you buy a kit of 4, you only get 2 soft boxes, and you can't order them. I can't find them anywhere online that you can order them after the fact, so that's sad. And then if the other kit is a kit of 12, and it even has other features. It's got a cool drawer for accessories, and they throw in some Manfrotto ball heads, but you only get 4 in the kit of 12, 4 soft boxes, and so that's not going to fly. So I did a DIY build-it-yourself case. I'll put in again in the video tonight the list of things that I used, links to Amazon, and if you use those affiliate links, I appreciate it very, very much. You don't pay extra, but you do help the channel. So go over and check out the new Aputure B7C unboxing, and not just unboxing, but we did a pretty deep dive. I think it's just under 20 minutes videos. I wanted to make sure I really covered the light, shared my pros and cons, and then you can make a decision if that's a light for you. Again, it's not sponsored video. And then the MC unboxing and look at that light is on there as well. And then the do-it-yourself case is on my channel. Those are the last 3 videos I uploaded. Then obviously another video last week live on Tuesday, and another one on Thursday when BlackMagic Design made the announcement, and then we're live tonight. So let's talk a little bit about the HyperDeck. Let me just say hi here again if anybody's new. So if you have any questions tonight about the new HyperDecks, let me know. I've been reading the manual, reading up on it. I think it's 772 pages long, but I think there's a number of languages in there. I don't know how many pages it is just in English. It covers all 4 of the HyperDecks, so you got to kind of scroll through. There's a lot of similar features, and then there are some extra things that the higher-end HyperDecks do as well. And I have done lots of research. I can probably field a lot of the questions, but I got to tell you, the HyperDecks have been around, according to BlackMagic Design in their opening letter from the owner. They've been around for over 10 years. So the HyperDeck is not new. The idea was to give you a broadcast quality deck to play videos from a SSD or a SD drive, and so they've been around a long time. They've made some changes, lots of firmwares, but obviously after last year's firmware update, they hit the wall. So they needed to redesign those, and it's pretty exciting. And so I chose, out of the 4, the one I really believe firmly replaces the HyperDeck Studio Mini, which is the deck that I've used, it's the deck that I'm going to continue probably to use, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And then they actually came out with a new kind of level of HyperDeck, and that records pretty much only. It will play, obviously, but it doesn't play motion graphics, so it doesn't have the key in the alpha channel or alpha in the key channel. And that's important to know if you're going to think about saving that $200, because you can buy the new HyperDeck that I believe is designed to replace the Mini. That's the one I ordered. It is the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. So it's still called high definition because not everything in it can do 4K, though it can record at 4K. It does have high-end SDIs in and out. But remember, the new HyperDeck, which will look like here in a minute, has an HDMI input, has an HDMI output, and when you use the codec for H.264, you have a limit of how high that can record. They even came out with the SDI version of H.264. We're not sure how compatible that will be with PC software, but it sounds like it's going to be compatible with Final Cut Pro. We'll have to yet to find out if it's going to be compatible, obviously, with DaVinci Resolve. I would hope so. And then when you get to the higher decks, you'll actually get H.265, and now you can record 4K 60 frames per second, where the HyperDeck Mini that I've had, Studio Mini that I've had in my studio, it will record through the SDI 6G input up to 30 frames per second, 4K, and that's its limit. So, and that's pretty well the same when you go to the HD Plus. The HD Plus can still record at the high level at 30 frames per second. It can still play videos and do all the things that it's done before, but they've added a ton of features that I think are very attractive, and it's the same price. So $495, you can buy a smaller HyperDeck that's got time code, syncing, all kinds of cool new features built into it, and you can use it to record. And they even have designed it so that if you have like one of the older rack-mounted switchers that don't have any recording built in. Remember when the A10 Pro came out, A10 Mini Pro came out, it has inside recording, so it will record H.264 at 422, which just means that it's a better compression. There's more information there. And a lot of the older consoles, and I mean the older rack-mounted BlackMagic Design units do not record. They don't encode either. So the Pro really kind of changed the game. And then the ISO followed that. And now you can record every channel coming in. So I promised Freddie I would talk about this. So when I had my A10 Mini Pro as my live streaming rig, like I would be live streaming normally in it, I can go right out of it. I don't have to go out of an HDMI into my computer and then go out through whatever tool I want to use, but I can actually stream directly from that Pro through the Ethernet port out into the world. So I want to do everything on the deck. So the reason I bought the HyperDeck is I wanted to play videos into a channel into my A10 Mini Pro. I wanted to be able to have motion graphics into my A10 Mini Pro. And so this new smaller deck doesn't do the motion graphics, but you could still come out of one of the other consoles, right? You could go from your camera into that smaller deck, come back out, right? Because there's an HDMI in now, an HDMI out, and you could come back out to your A10 Mini that doesn't record, or you could come out to one of those other rack-mounted consoles, which we all believe they're going to update them very soon. And then you could do what they say they called ISO recording before it was available inside an ATEM. So what that means is that your camera would go into the HyperDeck, you would sync them all together, you would do another camera into another HyperDeck, another camera into another HyperDeck, and if you had 6 cameras in an old rack-mounted HD switcher, then all six cameras would go to a HyperDeck first, and then out of the HyperDeck into the back of that console, and then everything would be mixed together and then sent out to an encoder. So all that's changed now. You can come right in from your HyperDeck and play videos into your A10 Mini Pro, A10 Mini Pro ISO, your Extreme ISO. And then if you have an ISO version, you can record every single input. And if you don't have an ISO version, if you only have the A10 Mini Pro, then you can record the program view, and that's what you're seeing. So if this graphics is up there, it's going to be recorded. If you only have A10 Mini Pro or an A10 Mini Extreme, they don't record every single channel. It has to end with the phrase ISO for it to record all the channels. So if I take this graphic off, that would be in the final recording. If I put this graphic on, that would be in the final recording. If I messed up, let's say, and I dragged in the wrong graphic, let's just say I bring this photograph in and I didn't want that, I could fix that problem in post because my A10 Mini Extreme ISO records every single input. So I would have a clean view of my camera too. So that would look like this, just to describe it. This would be the whole recording, would just have me in this image. It wouldn't matter if I got up here and cut cameras. You would see the back of me over there in this view. And then if I cut to camera 1, you're going to see this, the whole shot. There's not going to be any graphics on it if it was the ISO recording. But if I cut to that, it's going to be a program recording. Or if I put a graphic on the screen, you got the graphic on it. So, and I'm actually recording ISO tonight, just to let you guys know. And that means that I have every single clean feed. And so I'm using 3 cameras tonight. I have my Sky camera, which just timed out, and we'll turn it back on here shortly. And then I have the camera 1, which is this shot right here. And I'm just manually bringing graphics on and on the screen. So there's the logo back on the screen. And I'm doing that with my mouse, and I'm watching the control software. So let's bring the HyperDeck picture up on the screens, being we're talking about clean HDMI recording the program. So as I drop this on here, this is going to be the show. We're going to put it up in that view and then turn on my key 1, and it's a little high. I threw these together right before we started, but there's the front of the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. And I apologize, I'm not going to be using SuperSource tonight. I just really wanted to kind of use this the same way I would use it for like if you had an A10 Mini Pro, because you could do this if you had a Pro. Now, when you design these graphics, if you weren't flying like I was tonight, you would have this a little lower to the bottom of the screen. And I noticed that. So when we cut to the back of the HyperDeck, it's going to be just a little bit lower, but I wanted it above this graphic because I wanted to keep this graphic on the screen. So there's the back, and here's the front. So one of the things that really is interesting to me when they did the announcement last week, which really caught my eye, is that if you ever worked with the buttons on the HyperDeck, it's not super easy. You can see the button layout now. If you go back and look at the HyperDeck Studio Mini that's been around for the longest time, that everybody was buying for $695 and now they couldn't find them, you're going to see that the button layout is turned sideways. There's more buttons now on the front of this HD Plus, and those buttons have specific purposes, and we'll talk just a little bit about some of the features. And then I'm going to make a video where I actually take this graphic, I draw a circle around every single thing I'm talking about, and you'll get a better idea of what the HyperDeck HD or Studio HD Plus has over the HyperDeck Studio Mini that they are now replacing. So $695, I have this on order, and it's got some cool features. So let's talk about them real quickly. If you look on the screen, it has a dark mode. So the pictures that BlackMagic Design put out there are the new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, and all the other versions, again, there's 4, so 3 more counting this one. They have this dark mode. So if you look right here below my finger, you can see it a lot easier. On my HyperDeck, everything's white graphics with black lettering, and it's harder for you to see the information. And when you have your HyperDeck and you're putting discs in and out, or you're recording, there's a lot of information on the screen that's really important. If you're just playing videos like I used it in most of my videos, it's probably not that important, but it's cool to see it playing. You can see if you're in loop mode. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. So I love that it has the dark mode. Also, let's just jump right over here. You have now below my finger, you have a headphone output. One of the things that I've had to try to solve for people that have watched my videos and asked me questions, they were asking me, how do they monitor their audio? And the way you monitor your audio would be to put your headphones in your HyperDeck, not your HyperDeck, but your ATEM, your Extreme and your ISO, and then you can hear the video playing if you have the audio turned on in that input. But again, the A10 Mini Pro, the A10 Mini, the A10 Mini Pro, A10 Mini Pro ISO, they don't have a headphone jack. So now you could have an A10 Mini, or you could have an A10 Mini Pro, or an A10 Mini Pro ISO, and this HyperDeck actually adds value, right? it adds value to your HyperDeck, especially if you came out of one of your HDMI outs into the HyperDeck to record in your ATEM Mini. Now you could have headphones. You could have headphones in your HyperDeck. In your Studio HD Plus, because you'll have to look. The little HyperDeck does not have a monitor output. At least I'm 90% positive. Let's put my still back up here real quickly, and we'll look. Yeah, I think it does. So again, I apologize. I should have seen that. So that's huge. So if you want to use it to record from your ATEM Mini, then you have that option. Also, if you look at this again right here, let's find my finger again. You have a button, a listen button right here, and that has a speaker built into it. And so you can hold that listen button down, and either through the speaker inside the HyperDeck or the headphones, you can listen to the audio and make sure it's recording audio and you've got the right audio. And then also you can make sure that when you're playing back that you have audio. Like if you're getting ready for your live stream and you want to make sure your intro recorded right, it has audio, then you'll be able to listen to it. Now, if you go over here, if you hold that button down as you're listening, you can move the jog wheel and it'll raise and lower the volume. That's another feature I love. So I love the dark mode. I love the fact that you have a speaker in it. You have a headphone jack. You have this button now that you can raise and lower the volume all on the front of the deck. So you keep count, okay? There's lots of cool things. Hey, Stop and Think, thank you for joining me. Okay, Craig, we'll talk about those lights. Wow, those are cool lights. So back to this. So now you have the better buttons on the front. I didn't mention that again. You have the dark mode. You have the headphone jack. You have the button to listen in the headphones. You can hold the button down and go up and down. The button below that will let you go into, controlling the deck on and off. So what does that mean? That means that I could go in my HyperDeck and I could stop and start recording. But if you were doing a master recording at an event and you didn't want anybody to accidentally stop your master deck from recording, let's say your master deck was recording a clean out in an event through maybe one of the extremes or maybe something else higher end, and you didn't want anybody to accidentally hit that, especially if you had more than one person with the control software open to do your event, right? Which happens a lot in big productions and even some small weddings. There'll be two people operating the control software, or maybe someone has their iPad open with Mix Effects on there. So if you turn that button on and off, it will turn on and off that the ability to remote control it. So some really cool things on the front. And again, I will cover all of those in my video, but for me, it was a really easy decision. The menu systems changed a little bit. I've already downloaded the new update, even though it doesn't change anything in the older HyperDeck Studio Mini or the older HD, HyperDeck Mini HDs or those versions. They've topped off, but once I get my new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, then I'll be ready with the updated software from BlackMagic Design, and it's under the HyperDeck section on their channel. So again, lots of things here. I love the big record button. I love the fact that you can hit the jog wheel. There's just more features and more options on the front of this deck, and it's just laid out better. It's a half a rack now instead of a third of a rack, so it does take up more space. It is going to stretch me on my desk because I'm pretty tight right now. I have probably 2 inches to spare, so things are going to have to move around in my studio, but I'm very excited to get a modern piece of equipment and have some of these modern features. So I'm going to flip it around. We're going to look at the back here for a few minutes and talk about this. So here's the back, and the back has changed. Again, this is the back of the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. You can see that you have 2 power supplies. So you can back up battery, and you can also have regular AC wall power. And again, remember, when you buy a HyperDeck, lots of things from BlackMagic Design, it does not come with a power supply. You have to buy one of those power supplies. I have plenty of them laying around from my studio days. So I think I have 6 of those in a box still. But and then you have to decide how you're going to use the HyperDeck, because you got some SDIs, right? Inputs and outputs. You have 2 HDMIs now. The HyperDeck Studio Mini only had 1, and that was for monitoring. Now let's talk about that for a second. Well, let's cover the back here. So then you have the ability to remote, and so you have these 2 ports, and that's giving you the ability to go to and come back, which is just what you need to really have the kind of control and communication that you need through serial. You have an Ethernet port, and then you have the inputs right below that. And so you can see that they've added now time code inputs. So you still have some of the same inputs that the HyperDeck Studio Mini has, but now you have the ability to time code sync. And that's huge if you want to be able to get all the decks that you have. If you were going to use a bunch of decks, like for instant replay, and you want to be able to stop and start certain decks, but you want them all synced, and it's just one more thing that gives you the ability to do that. So if I added another HyperDeck Studio HD Plus to my studio, then I would definitely want to time sync them, and then they can be synced with some of the new cameras they announced, as well as some of the old cameras that are out there that have time code in them. It has a time code generator in it, and so that's true with all 4 decks, and that is really, really, really helpful. You still have, I'm looking for it here, you still have the SD in the middle right down there, see, between the 2 serial ports. So now that USB-C, excuse me, is a webcam. And that's huge. Like, let's say you wanted to use your HyperDeck and then play videos into OBS, or you wanted to use your HyperDeck and your 4K camera. You could come from your camera into the HyperDeck, either SDI or HDMI now. You could come back out, and then you could record that, or you could stream that through the port. So you could go to OBS or any of the other streaming software that's available, or through Zoom, or through Google GoToMeetings, all of those softwares. Now the HyperDeck becomes a camera output, and that's huge. Plus that USB-C will let you record to discs like this, or you can add a hub. So just like the ATEM Mini Pro, the Pro ISO, the Extreme, and the Extreme ISO can record to discs, and if they're fast enough like this ScanDisk is, and big enough, then you can ISO record right to this. So now you could do a all-day recording possibly on one SD card, and it'll still recognize, if you get a hub, it'll recognize 2 of these and automatically switch over. You now have to go in the menu system and choose what you're going to record to, especially when you get to the more expensive decks, because they have 2 slots on the front, an SD slot and an SSD slot, and they have 2 of those, and so you're going to have to let the HyperDeck know what you're using. I don't think it automatically detects, because if you already had SSDs in the front or in it, and you had SD cards in it, SD cards had your intro and your outro video, and you wanted to record to one of these because you were going to do some ISO recording of one of your cameras, right? And then you came out of that into your ATEM Mini or your Pro, whatever it is, to do a live event, then you're going to have to tell the HyperDeck what you want it to record to. So again, these are available to record to now on all the HyperDecks, and that's huge. So that USB-C port isn't just for firmware updates. It's now got the same ability as the Extreme Pro up to the Extreme ISO. I mean, the Mini Pro up to the Extreme ISO to record to discs. It's also a webcam. And again, you can do firmware updates and things like that through that USB-C port. So that's huge. So put that back. And so now let's talk about the HDMI outs. So again, there are so many things here that it's exciting me about the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus and on up the chain. And I'm even excited for some of you to use the smaller deck that you're not doing motion graphics. Or when you are doing graphics, they don't need to be keyed out, right? They don't have any transparency, so you can just play those graphics out and use the Luma key to take out those backgrounds and be able to use those graphics in a live event. I'm just going in here real quick to make sure that I am using the right terminology here. Chroma key, sorry. So you could chroma out the green background. So you could make a flying graphic in Adobe Premiere or Final Cut. You could make the background green. Sorry about that. You can make the background green, and you would be able to then chroma key that out, and then you'd be able to bring that in from your key as an input onto your show. It's just going to look nicer if you have a key channel to be able to key out the background, and that's what's missing on that smaller deck. But you can see it's still here, and you still have inputs and a loop out. So you could come in to one deck and then loop out to another deck, and you can loop out to another deck. And people ask me all the time, how could you do instant replay? Well, if you had 4 decks recording the same input, you could stop any one of those decks and queue up a section and have it coming back out of that deck into your main broadcast switcher, and then you could play a replay. So because you're recording the same input all the way down the channel, and that's another way people can use HyperDecks or any type of recorder out there if they can time sync them all together and get them to play correctly with all the other equipment. And that's really, really, really important. So the 2 HDMI outs, so you have a monitor out, and now you can choose if you want all the info on the screen, and that's huge. So HDMI input and HDMI output, sorry. So you now have a way to input HDMI, and then you also have the same HDMI monitor out. And I use that right here in my BenQ monitor because it has 4 inputs in it. So my top left quadrant is the HyperDeck, so I can see the video playing. I can also monitor the audio, but now I'm going to be able to monitor audio right on the front of the HyperDeck, and that's one of the reasons why I put my input from my HyperDeck in the monitor output, HDMI output. I put it in the top left quadrant of my BenQ when I have it divided into 4 inputs, because that's the only input that plays on the speakers inside my BenQ, because it would make no sense if it was playing 4 different audio sources. So now I can just monitor on the front of my HyperDeck when it gets here. And so there's lots of cool features, and the ability to have more information on the screen like you see in the web presenter. The reason people like the web presenter is because there's so much information available on the screen, so they can leave that up in their live stream and be seeing the quality of the video. And a lot of people were doing that with the web presenter. And now there's the web presenter 4K, and that just lets you stream 4K, high resolution, if that's what you wanted to do. So again, that's the front. Some features on the front, some features on the back. There are some features inside that you need to tweak, like turning on the information on the screen if you want it. If you don't want that information on the screen because you're going to come out of the HyperDeck into your into an input on your Extreme or your Pro or your Mini, your ATEM Minis, and you don't want information on the screen, you want to clean out, then you would just go into the menu system and you would turn that off. And as I said last week when I did my live stream on Thursday, when I get my HyperDeck, I get a chance to spend a couple weeks working with it, studying the insides and outs. I will be releasing a new series on the HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of tutorials out there. I just want to be very thorough, and I want to focus on how I know I use it and how many other people are using their HyperDecks as well. So I'm going to take a breath here. Just say hi. So that's kind of it on the HyperDeck. I don't want to take all night talking about it, but I do have this version coming. I'm number 6 on the Dev Store's lists. So I know I'm on the same list with Aaron Parecki because he and I communicated through text in his chat, and he told me he has one on order too, the exact same one, which is kind of, you know, that kind of makes you feel validated because you made the right choice. And I also was listening to Here to Record John Barker, and he was saying that that's the one that he's looking seriously at as well. I don't think he's ordered one yet. So anyway, it's to the races. I was late to the party with my HyperDeck mini series. It's been around a long time, but I felt like it was an important thing to have here on the channel, and there will be another series on the HyperDeck as well. And but I want to keep focusing on other things like lights and things like that. So any questions about the HyperDeck before we shift gears and we talk about lights? I have the mobile microphone ready tonight, and we're going to talk about these lights that I use in my studio, talk about what they do and some of the features that they have. We're not going to spend a long time on the lights, but I wanted you to see all the lights I have. And if you haven't seen that shot yet, here's the shot of the lights that I have in the studio. Ready to go right now on stands. And those aren't the only lights. There's actually lights in the background, lights on my desk. And I have lots of lights to be able to get this job done. So let's turn that off and see if you have any questions. So I'll let you catch up to the chat and the live stream because I know I'm delayed. One day I will put graphics on the screen, but it's already hard enough to be a one-man show. So I haven't put chat messages on the screen, but I do have my paid copy of HTR graphics, and a version 2 is coming out. So a shout out to John Barker here to record for a great app. And also you have Companion that works with the Stream Deck. There's lots of tools, Adam Tao, Mix Effects. So lots of things out there to make your streaming experience as well as your video production experience a lot smoother. And I use that stuff a lot when I'm recording. So especially Mix Effects when I'm on the table. So any questions, guys? South Carolina, Fort Worth, Texas. Freddie's told us many times, Venezuela. So thanks for joining me. Anybody else that's listening to this recorded, I would love to hear where you're from. That would be great as well. So, okay. So unless you guys have any questions, I really think there's got to be some questions about the HyperDeck. Isn't it cool that it's $695, that they did not raise the price? And they gave us probably, I think I'm up to 15 different things that they changed or added that I believe is a benefit in the version that's still $1695. So the old HyperDeck Studio Mini, $695 US dollars. You have to do the math for where you're from. I think it's the same price in California, but Freddie, Venezuela, it might be a bit different. And then $695 for the new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus. And I'm still learning how to say these names. So, okay, well, let's just start with this then. Oh, wait, when you have a moment, please remind me of the app that allows you to get a clean camera video feed from my iPhone into my ATEM. So Mix Effect has this new feature that lets you bring in a FTTPS feed. That's the same thing that if someone's just broadcasting over the internet, it's the same kind of process that the Streaming Bridge does. And it's an OBS app called Video Ninja. So the easiest way to find it is to just type in your web browser OBS Ninja, because that's the Google algorithm has been serving that up for so long. It probably will just serve it up. And it's a free app. It has the ability to create rooms. You can put people in a waiting room. It's very high tech. I've used it twice with Adam Tao when he was coming on my live stream. Both times we had to go back and forth between Zoom and it. And I had a lot of jittering because I have a wireless internet. In other words, it's a microwave going from a building about 800 yards from me, and that shoots to the back of my house. And packet loss is a big thing when you're broadcasting wirelessly. That would be true if you just, if you don't have a direct connection to the back of your laptop and you're using wireless. If you're streaming that way, just know that you can get what they call packet loss, and that Video Ninja has a app built into it to actually test good quality video and if you're going to get packet loss or not. You can actually run that, and it basically broadcasts video to and from your studio to see if you're having packet loss, and that causes frame drops. It causes the resolution to be squashed. And so be aware that the best way to use Video Ninja or to use Zoom is to have a hardwired, really good connection with at least, probably 6 or 7 gigabytes speed up and down speed, megabytes up and down speed. And you can also lower the output in your ATEM so that you're not streaming high, and that will help you. That should drop you down to about 4. If you have lots of motion on the screen, if you don't have any motion and you're just showing a still image and a countdown clock, it doesn't take a lot of upload speed to do that. So just be aware that what's happening on the video changes how much data is going out. I'm streaming high, and right now I'm between 6.18 megabytes a second to 6.18. So it stays around there depending on how much waving I'm doing. Now, if I really get crazy, I literally can make it go up. It just bumped over 6.32. So again, it just depends on what you're streaming and the resolution that you're trying to send out to the internet. And I'm sending out H.264 streaming high. So be aware. I hope that answers the question. That's OBS Ninja or OBS Video Ninja, because they have officially changed the name, and it's a free app that you can open up and use it as a video source. So you got to bring the video source into it, like USB-C out of your HyperDeck, USB-C out of your ATEM minis. However, you're going to get that signal coming into a cam link from your HDMI output of your camera. There's also now lots of USB-C or USB ports in cameras that you can now display at lower resolutions. So you could use your camera as a source, like Canon has a free app now. So you can use your Canon cameras as a web camera, but just be aware that those usually are lower resolutions because camera USB-C ports typically aren't designed to pass high def video, so they're limited. But these USB-C ports in the BlackMagic Design products are very high-end USB-C ports. They can pass a lot of data. That's why you can record to an SD card, like one of these scan discs. And there's other versions. They just have to be very fast. And you can record to these because those USB-C ports are very, very fast. They also sped up the transfer. It's a 1 gigabyte Ethernet port now in all the new HyperDecks. And that's already true with the ATEMs, but the HyperDecks were very old, so they were very slow. So when you're transferring information back and forth, just realize they're much faster now. And I think we're going to actually even get better video quality when we're streaming directly from our ATEMs, the ones that will stream directly from them. And that's basically from the ATEM Mini Pro up to the Extreme ISO. And we're going to see new decks coming out very soon. Not HyperDeck minis, probably. We're going to probably see rack-mounted pieces of equipment, just like the new web presenters that are out and the new HyperDecks out. I believe that those are all going to get updated, and they're probably already being updated now. And we may hear an announcement as soon as the fall because of what's happening with video production around the world. So, okay, so can we get to the lights now? Are you guys cool with that? Let me change mics. Let me know if you're hearing me fine. Okay, we're going to change cameras. Go to this shot. I'm going to get up here. Let's get that off the screen. Put that on the screen. So you should be seeing now this camera view. And here I am. Oh, my camera tilted down. Let me tilt it back up. Sorry about that. We'll widen this shot just a little bit. There's a last minute adjustment. So right here, guys, let me turn my monitor, make sure I'm in screen here. Right here is the MC Light by Aputure. And so be aware that this is on, and I have it the same color temperature as the ones back here. So I have lights on my shelf, and I got these because they're great practical lights. There's 3 of them, 1 on each shelf. I have 4 total. This is the only one with a softbox on, and I can operate this from the app. Let's tighten this shot up just a little bit. Sorry. So this is on a mount and I have it on a ball head so I can twist and turn it. And then this is a flash slash studio light for photography. So I'll turn that on. And it has what they call a bulb in it. And that is designed to, let me adjust this here real quick. There you go. So it's got a bulb in it. I'm not going to aim it at the camera. And that is a bulb so that you can see what your light's like. So I have 3 of these. So I would use one as a hair light, one as a fill light, and one as a key. And I need to be able to know that, that I have the right light. Like I could have one flash set at a stop higher for a, hair light. And then I could have one a stop below the key light. And I can see that with the bulb that's in this. So I've used these for video and I've also used these for flash. And they have the flash ability on the back. So let me see where the test is. Here we go. So close your eyes. There you go. So it's a flash. So I have the ability to use this with what they call pocket wizards, and I can wirelessly control this. I even have a light meter that I can fire all of these lights and check the light and meter the light. So for really good quality photography, when you can't afford to get things wrong, this is a great light. So I'm going to shut that off. I wouldn't recommend that light for video production, but I wanted to let you guys know that I have one here. And then onto this. This is my UL 150, guys, and I have these over my head. This softbox that you can see right here is my other one. I took this down for tonight's stream. This is a great light. You can see it's got a giant heat sink on it. There are no fans, and I love this light. So I use this in my studio to light my table. I'm going to turn this one on right now so you can see it. And so it just fired up. And also the softbox in my studio is on. You can see that it came on as well. And it's going to help light up the lights so you can see them better, because I actually adjusted this camera for having this light on. But I wanted to show you this light on and off. And I have it at the lowest setting at 10%. But again, you can put modifiers on it. You can put a softbox. You can put a lens on it like this, which makes it even brighter. And then you can add barn doors, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. I'm going to aim this away and light up the corner of the room here. And then I want to go up to this. Now, this is my 50 RS light, and this can use batteries, and so can this. If you buy a battery for this, you can use it with the battery or plug it into the outlet, and the battery would go on the pack. So this does not have the power supply on it. The power supply actually looks like this. And so instead of having this brick on the back, I can actually use that same strap around a D-tap battery. And so I just have this sitting down here out of our way so I can walk around these lights. And so this is the most recent light outside of the B7C on my desk that I've purchased. This is one of the older lights that I've had because I was doing photography, and I still do photography. So if I want really perfect light, perfect flash, perfect exposure, when I'm just doing photographs, I'm going to use a flash. And then I need the model light, which is what that's called. And I have the ability to lower the wattage, take that bulb out and put a different bulb in. So if I don't want them really hot in the studio, I just need to see what the light mix is. Then I can take these bulbs out and replace them with smaller bulbs. I believe these are 25 watt bulbs, and I have some 5 watt bulbs as well. So the Godox doesn't have a fan, which I love, and it gets pretty bright. Again, I'm not going to make those bright tonight, but this is the kind of light you probably would want to get for live streaming in a pretty good size room, because you could use this as a key light with a softbox. If you were going to do some studio work or go do some talking head interviews, this is a great light. And then having another one as a fill, or even possibly a hair light. But just be reminded, when you want a dramatic look, you don't put any fill light on one side of the face, and it gives you shadows. In fact, kind of right now, this side of my face is a lot darker because there's no real light over there, and I'm getting light on this side of my face. So, but if you want kind of a more flat look with a little bit of contrast, then you want to have 2 lights, one on the side as a fill and one as a key. And then adding a hair light puts that halo around you, and you can see a halo around me right now coming from my other 50 RSS, and that's the other light that I have hanging on my Manfrotto auto pole back there. So that's a Manfrotto auto pole 2. I have a Manfrotto super clamp over there, and I have a super clamp over there, and they hang back there, and they're normally not down. I brought this down for you guys tonight. And again, you can go battery. Let me put this down. You can go battery operated, or you can go, and here's the batteries. I have 2 on the back, or you can go through an outlet, and I have both hooked up tonight. So if I go right, I get light. I go left, I get light, because I have both battery in it and I have AC power to it. And these I recommend on my channel for people starting out because they're a great light. They're also RGB, so I can go into color mode if I wanted to, but this is linked up with that light. And if I change the color tonight of this light, it's going to change the light in this room. But if I just hold down this button back here on the right side, it goes between modes. And so there it just went into a color mode. So I went ahead and did it anyway. And then I can change the hue and saturation with these 2 knobs. And I can change the color in here. And if I go back, hit it again, then I can get back into Kelvin mode, and I have it set for 56K because that's the lights in my room. And so the last light I wanted to talk about tonight is my Photo D.I.Y, and this is the LED 200 WA56. And again, it's got a Bowens mount. This one has a Bowens mount, and a Bowens mount is this. That gets really bright, but this is a Bowens mount. It has those 3 little tabs. And so if you see that when you're looking at sorry about that. Having my hands full with a microphone really hurts trying to put a diffuser back in. So I can put a set of barn doors on here, and they look like this. So I have the barn doors on this one, and barn doors just look like the 50 RS. So these are barn doors, and again, you can put those on there, and then you have what you have. You have honeycomb grids. And what a honeycomb grid does is, this is the top, you can slide these in, and what that does is it directs the light. So I'll aim this at the camera. You can see if you're turned that far away, it stops the light because it has the honeycomb grid in it. And I have a softbox right here with a honeycomb grid as well. Now watch how much light you can see. So this is going to spill light everywhere unless you have a grid in it, and you can actually get different size honeycomb grids. So some of them have like a 20% spread. Some of them will have a 40% spread. And so that is a set of barn doors, and it lets you shape the light. And I use these in my studio. It's just one more tool for shaping the light. And then back here to the Photo D.I.Y, which is my brightest light. This thing can really go bright. I have it at the lowest setting. You also have a soft diffuser. This just covers it like that, and that makes softer light. If you can soften up the light and stop it down, what that does is it takes that light from really being a reflector, and it does spread it out a little bit. The wider the surface that you have as a light source, the softer the light is. Then more narrow, typically harsh light. So you can put a softbox on here, and it kind of softens the light because it's about an inch away from the front of the LEDs, and it also spreads the light even around it. So it's a lot softer light to have a softbox on it. Same with this. I have softboxes that fit the Einstein, and this is by Paul C. Buff. This is the Godox UL150. This is the Aputure MC. This is the great Video Maker 50 RS. And again, it's an RGB and bicolor light. So if you buy them, those are really good lights to buy. They have them in kits of 2 and kits of 3. And this is PhotoDiox's LED 200 WA56. And that is a very, very bright light. And it's also a Bowens mount. The only one here besides the MC that's not a Bowens mount is the Palsy buff lights, and they just simply have this round deal, and you got to open this lever, and then you got these little grabbers to grab a hold of that. And then you can also see there's a hole here, and that's so that you can put an umbrella in. They use umbrellas because you can get a big 72-inch umbrella, and it really makes the light beautifully soft. So if you're shooting a family of 12, a softbox is the perfect thing to stick in front of this. And what you normally do is you bounce the light into the softbox back to the people. So, and they call those umbrellas. And I have umbrellas here in the studio as well. So PhotoDiox 200 watt light, the 50 RSs, they're about 50, they're about 120, they're about, no, what, 1/8 the brightness of the PhotoDiox. This is about half the brightness of the PhotoDiox. It's the UL 150, and it's, again, no fans. There's a fan in the power supply on the PhotoDiox. This is the power supply right here on the floor. They're not high tech. I would give these lights probably between 6 and 7 out of 10. The construction of the of the Godox lights, I'd give them probably 7 or 8. Very good light, no fans, just a big heat sink. The 50 RSs are probably 5 or 6s. They're a budget light. These Aputure lights are very well built. I'd say they're a 9 or 10, and that's kind of the look at the lights right here. And again, I have another 50 RSS up there right now, and they're linked together. So if I change that one, it changes that one, and that's a good feature to have. The Godox have a remote control that you have to purchase. If you buy the UL 150, which is the silent Godox light with no fan, or you buy the new 60 UL 60 that came out this last year, you have to buy a remote. They do not come with a remote. And this is the old version of remote. There's a new remote. So this wouldn't even 60 if I bought it. I would have to get a new remote. Now, one of the things that's really cool about lights is that a lot of manufacturers help you link them all together, and that's what I wanted to talk about right now. So I'm going to sit back at my desk. Have I been talking that whole time with no mic, guys? Nope, I have. Cool. Okay, so I should be back to my mic on my desk. Let me check the audio. See if anybody's yelling at. Testing. So there's other modifiers that I wanted to talk about again. So the modifiers that you're going to use are going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish. So you also have some light kits come with color socks. You saw me put the white sock on the PhotoDiox. You can actually do colored socks to change the light temperature or just have special effects. And so I have one kit that came with these, with a set of barn doors and a softbox. And then I had another kit that comes with sheets that you put in, and they're really nice. They're in a metal frame. I bought a kit that goes with my PhotoDiox lights, and they have a paper grid that you put in these different color. So I have a whole battery of colors here so I could change the light temperature, because this light is daylight balanced 56K. The 50 RS can be adjustable, the Kelvin value, so I can make it very warm or very daylight balanced, and it has limits. The UL 150 is a daylight version. You can also get a more warm version of that. And then the Einstein, which has now been completely changed. They have a new light now. They don't sell this anymore. That has the ability to do different type bulbs, different balanced bulbs, but it's mainly designed to show you the light before you take a flash. And so this is one way. Last week I showed, or a couple weeks ago, I showed you a big softbox. So what kind of lights do you need? I mean, do you need all this stuff? It really depends on what you're trying to do. Like these little lights, like this one. What I wanted to do is be able to go into a shoot, pull a bulb out. So if I go into a shoot and I come in with my daylight balanced lights, like my photo Diox, which is 56K Kelvin, my UL 150, which is really close to 56K. They're not exact, so you have to keep that in mind. If I was using those lights and I walk into a room and they have a bulb in the back that's very, very warm, it's going to make it really hard for skin tones. That's why I have this set. It's set at lavender. It's actually not set to a Kelvin temperature. It's actually set to match a color that's on my screen back there. So this is the Aputure I just reviewed, released that video today. This is the B7C bulb light. It has a battery in it, so I can literally take it out of this lamp. And you can see it stayed on because I have it turned on. It gets a lot hotter when you have it in a lamp and you don't have it in the battery charging mode. So keep that in mind. But it can be very bright. It also has controls on the front. And I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but what I like about this light is that I can use the app by Godox, and I can link them all together, which is huge. So I can pick a color, and all of these will work together. So if I had 12 Aputure MCs and 8 of these, I can not only make them all the same color, I can sync them together. They can all do the effects together, and you can also program it to do a wave of light for music videos and things like that. But the thing that excited me about this the most is that if I want the right color temperature in my studio for a lamp in my set, then I need to have a bulb that I can really make sure that the color temperatures are accurate and it doesn't flicker. This is good down to a shutter speed of 1,000 without getting any flicker. So that means that when you're shooting 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, it's not like a regular 60 or 50 hertz light that gives you those waves and those flickers. This is designed specifically to be flicker free. And it has limited buttons on the outside. There is no LED screen, and I'm turning it off because it's very hot right now because I had it inside the lamp and I did not have the settings right. So there's kind of a look at the lights that I have. So how do you know what light you need? I want to hear your comments in the chat. Make sure this is not me, not my microphone. I want to hear your comments in the chat. And I also want to hear what kind of lights that you have. And let's have a conversation right now. What kind of lights do you need for live streaming, for video production, and for photography? If you look at my still image that I shot from my most recent video, I used my Aputure MC lights to get the perfect lighting around my new accent bulb by Aputure. So it's the first time that I felt like I have a fast way to take light, to get really good lighting on my nice wood table for a still image. And lots of people are using their video lights, their portable video lights like the Aputures. Let me grab this real quick. They're using these lights real quickly to light the situation, or you could even put it on a camera with a ball head and use it as a key light. You can use an adapter that puts 2 flashes together and it just barely fits 2 of these lights without the softboxes on. And that's in my video on the Aputure MC, and it's also in my video on the B7C accent by Aputure. So again, I'm using them for both video in the background, and I'm also using them for taking still images, and I'll take them on a shoot to be a practical light in the background wherever I need to throw light. But the thing about this is that when I go into video editing and I have to do color correction, I can remove, if I have enough of these, I can remove their bulbs and put this normal bulb in there, and they can actually interact with it just like a regular light bulb. So they can turn it off and back on again. So for videos, music videos, or a talking head shot, if they have a lamp at their desk or a light in the background, you could actually replace with these, replace those lights. Or you could use the magnets on the back of an MC, and you could stick those maybe inside the lamp, turn the regular bulb off, and use this to light the lampshade. And that's been done as well. Inside a bowl that you want it to look like a candle, you can go to the flame mode and make this look like a candle. You got paparazzi mode, you've got firework mode. So if you had a bunch of these in firework mode spread out in a shot, then you could actually make it look like everybody in the shot on their face is watching fireworks. And then you could turn around and show B-roll of fireworks and actually have it look like those people are sitting there on a hillside on a blanket watching fireworks, because you're going to have the shot in their face close up popping just like fireworks. And if you spread it around them, in front of them, you're going to get really what I think would be a very easy dissolve from a close up to a shot of fireworks. And you don't even have to have firework display to pull that off. You could just purchase some B-roll or create some B-roll yourself every 4th of July that you can now use for your video production. So, so look back here in the chat. There was this Amaron 100X lights earlier this year. My experience with them has been good so far. So yeah, check out the Amarons, the 100X. There's lots of lights out there. Aputure has some great lights, guys. I only have MCs, and I have the B7C, one of them right now, and this is the MCs by Aputure. They have a battery, they have magnets in the back. They also are wirelessly chargeable. This is not wirelessly chargeable. It can be charged in a lamp. It also has a battery mode. On the MC, you can control all the colors, all the fixture stuff inside of it. Change the Kelvin temperature, go to any kind of color mode by the controls and the little LED screen. This does not have LED screen, so you got to use the Sidus Link app, but you can link them all together with the Sidus Link app. It's a great app. You can even snap pictures of colors in the room and match them exactly with the different lights. Now this will go down to 2000 Kelvin up to 10,000 Kelvin, and it matches their big Nova light, which is $1,700 for the light and a kit. And it is a sick, very cool light. This is a little baby version of that light. But if you had 12 of these, you could probably light a room close to what that big light does, the Nova by Aputure. So I'm not really brand sensitive when it comes to lights. I'm just looking for something that solves my problem. From flashes, I have Canon flashes, the 430, I think they're EXs, or I have those flashes for my cameras. I have 3 of those. I have a set of diffusers for those flashes. Then I have 3 of the Einsteins, which are more I use in the studio if I went and did a real big high-end shoot with a bunch of employees or a big business shoot. I would definitely take my softboxes and my Einsteins and my pocket wizards and my wireless control for those for sure. So lights do specific things, and you need to know lighting in order to know what to get. So any questions on lighting? So 4K, Freddie, would take 6 to 18 megabytes a second, I think, to do any kind of 4K. To do HD, it's somewhere around 6 megabytes a second upload. But you can also do 1080p at lower resolutions inside the ATEMs. You can also record at lower resolutions inside your HyperDeck, so that when you went to play an intro video, you could actually record it at a lower bit rate, more compressed version, and then it would be easier to play in your live stream. So I hope that answers that question. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your lights, the 100X Amarons, and maybe you could put a link in the chat to where you purchased those, if it was B&H or Adorama or Amazon, so we can all take a look at those. I will put some links in the description tonight of where I got my lights, or at least where you can get them. And again, the Einstein has been defunct, and they made a whole new light. So you can still buy those used. They are great light. Many photographers use the Einsteins because they were affordable and they're very, very color accurate, and their flash is very accurate when it flashes, and that's what he was known for. Paul C. Buff, he went away from us. We lost him a couple years back now, and I think his family has done a great job of running the company in his absence. But a shout out to Paul C. Buff. He was a trailblazer. So that's why I love those lights, and I've had them now for a number of years. So that's all I had tonight, guys. I just love to chat about your conversations about lights. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Any questions whatsoever? Would you put them in the chat? So the Elgato lights are the only ones, Freddie, I showed you tonight. The Elgato Key, and my son, I have two of those Elgato Key lights. And there's also a ring light that Elgato makes now. And then there's also the Elgato Key Light Air, and it's not as bright. It's about half as bright, and it's not half the price, but it's probably a little bit more practical, and it'll actually come on a stand that you set with a weighted base right on your desk, and it's adjustable up and down, where the Elgato Key lights have a desk mount clamp, and those also have what they call flex arm that's available to give you ability to reach out, use it as a hair light over your desk and things like that. So you have to buy that separate. So that's remote controllable on the Stream Deck. So keep that in mind when you're buying lights. There's also some lights over the counter by Phillips, the Phillips Hue Lights, which are very expensive. They're supposed to be more accurate than the Whiz lights that I use back here in my lamp. And I'll be replacing that 80 lumens lamp with this after tonight's show. So this is what you're gonna see all the time in that lamp back there, unless I'm at a shoot, and I'll put the Whiz light back in because I'll come in here to read. And they're remote controlled by, not the Whiz lights, but the Philips Hue lights can also be controlled in the app, the Stream Deck. But the color accuracy, the color balance, what you're able to do in this light and how it's battery operated, it's good up to, the ideal temperature is under 113 degrees Fahrenheit, under 40 degrees Celsius. It actually starts to change the way it broadcasts light at 45 Celsius. You can do the math at Fahrenheit. So you got to be careful because it will kick into a lower brightness automatically. The battery is supposed to be specifically good for heat. So just this design, it was $80 retail in the US. I think I paid $90 for the MC lights. This is brighter than these. So if this had an LCD screen, I would be all over these, but I like the magnet. I like that these are wireless chargeable. I think these could recover a lot faster on a job, especially with my case. But they sell a case that you can put 8 of these or buy that has 8 of these in, and they pop in and out. Little light, it's like you're popping in and out of a plastic light fixture, and they can charge inside the case, and the case is designed for them to close right in those slots, and you can plug it in the wall and charge them. So I did not buy the case, but if you bought a case of 8 of these, you get all the diffusers because the diffusers are built on and they're actually vented. So you actually have heat being able to escape these lights, and you got the aluminum shroud, which is also conducting heat. So it's pretty warm to the touch because that's what that aluminum heat sink is supposed to do. So where this light, the Godox, that doesn't get hot. And these lights will get hot, especially if you're using the battery and the light at the same time. If you just have it plugged in and you're using it in the plugged in mode, you won't get the same kind of heat. But it gets really hot in my studio when I'm streaming live, so FYI. So let's look at the time here, guys, and then I'll look at the chat again. 5:14, I want to wrap this up, so let's look at the Kevin Crawley says, Elgato Key Light Airs. Those are the less expensive version. Talked about the app, which is the OBS Ninja, that's what you're going to use. And Adam has a tutorial on his page, so go check that out. He's about to break 1,000 subscribers, so we are going to have a little celebration for Adam when he does that, and I hope that he'll do likewise. My channel is really slowed down, and so I'm really trying to figure out why that is. I know it's summer, but Adam's channel has taken off, and it's a different type of channel because he's doing tutorials on the app he designed, and I get that. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this, for liking these videos, going to watch my other videos. Again, if you're not interested in any of these lights, then maybe watch the little bit of the video. But if you really want to know how they work and how to get the app working, those videos are very thorough. So I think I said hi to everybody, to Freddie, to Craig. Thank you for being here tonight. For Stop and Think, and maybe I didn't cover that. When you have a moment, please remind me of the app that always gets you clean camera video. That is Filmic Pro. Has a clean HDMI out available to it. There's also the Air Solo app, which is called something else now. Let me look at my phone real quick. And it lets you have your iPad live plugged into your ATEM, and then your phone becomes wireless, but it has latency, and it doesn't sync very well. Filmic Pro just gives you a clean HDMI out if you use the adapter, and that's the app that I use all the time. And it's downloadable from the App Store, and it's not that expensive. And it's a great video app. If you're using your phone to do video, it has lots of features, and you can add extra features. So you can do white balancing, and there's all kinds of things. You can zoom in and out. You can change the focus all with the tip of your finger. It's a great app. Then there's an app called Double Take that lets you shoot both angles. So you got a selfie of you and what you're shooting in the front. So that's a great for a walk around in your studio. And you can set it up to record both channels separately so that when you get it into your editing software, it doesn't look like what you streamed. It doesn't have you looking one way and the main big image. So it's like a picture in picture. And I think you can reverse those as well. You can make the other side of the camera small and you really big, and then you can record those two channels of video separately right inside your smartphone, and that's an app called Double Take. I will put a link into a great video of a gal that I watch on YouTube that moved from New York down to Texas recently, and she did a whole video on Double Take. It's a great video, and I'll put that in the link of the description later tonight again. So Filmic Pro for just doing a clean out in your live stream, Double Take to show both sides. If you're going to do a walk around through your studio and you want people to still see you, and you're going to do it all from your phone, and then you also have the ability to record both those channels and mix them later. It's like an ISO recording of both views of both cameras, the one facing away, the one facing ahead. And then you also have the other app, and it is now called, sorry, long day, get sidetracked, no excuse. It's called Air Mix Remote and Air Mix Solo. So you get both of those apps free, and one you can use for switching. You can even bring in graphics. So it's really nice. I mean, you could actually probably produce a whole video from it, do lower thirds. You can play video clips from your phone in it, and then you could actually stream from that app live through the output. It's a little smaller than the full screen, so keep that in mind. But you could use an ATEM Extreme or an Extreme ISO, or even use the DVE inside the Pro, the Mini, and the Pro ISO to crop that down and use it as a picture-in-picture. So you could stay on the screen, and then you could actually have that cropped on the screen at the same time, or you could use Super Source in the Extreme and Extreme ISO, and you could create a smaller box cropped in, and then always use that for using the Live Air remote feed. So again, I hope that helps you. I think Filmic Pro is a little tinier, a little smaller, even though it's clean HDMI, than a normal full frame. So keep that in mind when you're using that. So, okay, guys, well, I think that's it. I think we covered everything. I could not get my, believe it or not, could not get my HyperDeck to take any files tonight. I did do the updates, so I've got to fix that problem. So I could not play my intro video tonight with a countdown on it, and I can't play my outro video that I created tonight. So I'm going to cut to the still image. I'm going to say goodnight. But before I do that, thank you so much for being with me. I am honored. Please get your questions and reach out to me in the chat later in the video as it goes live. Check out the links. Share with me your links, please, in messages. If you have a product that you think is really great, I'd love to hear about it. I want to learn and grow continually with you. And thank you for liking and subscribing and ringing the bell so you can hear about what's next here on the channel. And I do have a couple videos that I'm working on and some that will be coming very soon. So I look forward to sharing with you again next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to Life Journey Production Studios. And guys, I hope you have an amazing week and a great evening. And I'll do my best to make this transition tonight smooth. And I will see you then. And until then, be safe and happy photoing, happy videoing, happy streaming.